With the Stinger finally having his retirement match, I think the casket door has closed on the idea of a match between Sting and The Undertaker. The dream match that the internet has been clamoring for years. The Undertaker addressed this very topic, including Sting's retirement. Boy, that's embarrassing. Undertaker was asked about the Stinger's retirement and why we never got that dream match that we were all clamoring for so hard. Check out this clip.
Of course, Sting.
Yeah, what a run, man. I understand runs. What a run. He, I think, got in the business a good 2 years before I did. I think he broke in like 1985, somewhere in there. I wonder now, like everywhere I go on any given day,
You get the question.
I get the question.
Yeah.
I always call it the question. Like when I do the One Dead Man show, I just wait with, I was like, oh, when's it coming? Because I know it's going to come, and it's always like, why didn't you and Sting ever have a match, or why didn't this happen or that happen? Which would have been. Man, that would have been huge box office. It just didn't work out, and
he never came over to. I mean, he did, but it was just such a. He was a very short run in WWE.
Short run in WWE, and Vince didn't want it. Not for whatever reason. I don't know what it was. He just didn't. He didn't feel it, and everybody else was like. People have been clamoring for this match for quite a few years now. I mean, as soon pretty much, I don't know, a year or two into his turn or into that character change. I mean, people were already, they were sending me artwork with the billboard or the poster, right? And so, it just never worked out. And then it got, then it was 2 when he got there. The match would have been good, but I don't think it would have lived up to the expectations that people have for it.
Vince didn't want it. It was as simple as that. Vince just didn't see it. Everybody else saw it. You heard The Undertaker say it himself. Even him questioned Vince McMahon. Like, dude, there's some serious demand for this match. Are you sure you don't want to do it? Nobody wants to see that shit. I don't think he ever saw it in Sting to begin with. He was never really particularly high on Sting. Sting had, when he came to the WWE, when he was finally there, they put him in significant spots. I mean, a match with Triple H at WrestleMania is nothing to shake a stick at. Whether he lost and whether the NWO thing didn't really make sense to incorporate them with him in the match, they still gave him a WrestleMania spotlight, a Hall of Fame induction, and then they gave him a world title shot against Seth Rollins. So he wasn't there long, but he certainly, they treated him right while he was there for the most part. Now, there was certainly a lot more that they could have did with him, and I think that Undertaker match was one of them. There was that opportunity there, a very short window. There was an opportunity back in the day when this whole thing, for me, Undertaker says it started for him. He started hearing it as soon as Sting turned to the Crow character, because these are two very similar characters. Different, of course. They're not identical by any means, but Sting was, look at it, both these guys were the franchise characters for their brand, right? Undertaker never left the WWE. Sting never left WCW. He was there right up until they closed the doors. Stinger was an iconic, he was the babyface, he was the conscience of WCW. Undertaker, the conscience of the WWE. Both had the dark, brooding characters. Undertaker, the dead man, of course. Sting, the Crow-esque character. But there's a lot of similarities there. And even just those two, just being the flag bearers for their separate brands. I get why there would have been intrigue back in the day. But really, this picked up steam when The Undertaker was set to come back and they aired that fucking promo video for him where they showed the rain. It was like the cabin in the dark and the rain, and it had the creepy music or whatever. And then you saw just the boots and the trench coat walking out the door, and it was a teaser. And the internet went nuts. If you don't remember this, the internet got carried away with themselves and thought, oh my God, this is Sting. Sting's finally coming to the WWE, and started fantasy booking Sting versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Let's do it. All the way up to the point where I do believe somewhere along the way, I don't know who said it on what podcast, but I do believe it got to the point where it wasn't the original plans, but the hype was so much that they did in fact reach out to Sting at that time, but they were not able to make a deal because Sting demands a lot of money. Sting has tried to retire from professional wrestling several times, and he just keeps getting the dirty money thrown at him. That's why Undertaker also said here, it's a shame he retired because I probably could have been convinced to have one more match with him. I bet you if you threw enough money at both these guys, like a Saudi Arabia show or some shit, you could get that. Now, the match would be the drizzling shits, and that's why Vince McMahon poo-pooed it. He knew the match would be the shits. Excuse me. But he never saw it in Sting to begin with. He never even saw the appeal of that match. But I think Undertaker undersells it, too, a little bit, because he comes at it like the fans want this big 4-star, 5-star match out of these guys. And I don't know that that's the expectation. I think fans are accepting, for the most part. You'll always find the dumbass online that'll be like, Undertaker's way too old. He shouldn't be doing this shit anymore. But he's an idiot, right? Like, The Undertaker, he talked about in this podcast, I can come out, he's like, I can still throw a punch better than pretty much anybody. He's like, I can sure as fuck still choke slam people. So, theoretically, he could be coming out and doing like the 911 gimmick, like in ECW, where you just have him come out and be like he did with Braun Breaker when he came out and beat the shit out of Braun Breaker on NXT. Taker could be doing that for another 10 years probably, but he's got it in his head that fans will not accept him, or he'll be letting his fans down if he gives anything less than Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25. And that's just not the case. People will be more than happy to just see him out there to an extent. I guess he's had some bad matches, right? His match with Brock was horrible, but he was concussed, right? And then he was kind of a step behind the next year with Roman as well. And then that match in Saudi against DX with Kane. Whew. Oh, boy. But I think just the icon, all we need is the entrances, the build-up, the promos, and the stare down in the middle of the ring with the WrestleMania in the background and the Prime Bottle logo underneath. Of course, you got to have the Prime Bottle logo underneath their feet for this iconic picture of Sting and The Undertaker face to face. I love it. It would still draw money. You can't tell me that it wouldn't. Would the match suck? Yeah, they could do some smoke and mirrors, though. They could do a cinematic match, which I wouldn't necessarily be too pumped for, but they could do it. Even if they did, it could be cool for, like, even next year's video game if they did, like, a face-to-face, like, if they did some kind of dream match storyline for next year, fantasy fucking booking. Because, they got their angle with it every, this year's Finish the Story, right? So next year it could be like, book your fantasy or, do your fantasy, whatever the fuck. I'm not a marketing guy, but you get the point. And you could build it around like they did that one year with Austin and Punk. You could build it around Taker and Sting, for example, and put together a couple other dream matches that'll never, ever happen. But you can still do the promos for them and shit like that. So, I don't know, man. I just think it was such a missed opportunity. There's a handful of those throughout the history of wrestling, that WWE especially, where Vince, just for whatever reason, isn't feeling it, brother. And just like Hogan and Flair at WrestleMania 8. My God, how do you not do Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair? Because Vince didn't wanna. Didn't do that great at the house shows, so clearly Hogan and Sid will do much better business. I don't know, man. Missed opportunities all around, but Still fun to wonder what if, and I know there's a lot of you out there that'll be like, I didn't care to see it to begin with, either because you knew the match would be the shits because they're old and feeble, or maybe you just don't really think Sting's all that great or Taker's all that great or whatever the fuck. I mean, it's not absolute. Nothing is in wrestling, but man, I really see that as just a huge missed opportunity. And I'm glad Taker took the time to talk about it, to give Sting his flowers, to, honor Sting's career and say, what a run, all that shit. He did throw a little shade at Sting. He did have to add, it didn't make the clip here, but he did have to add a little, no, granted, WCW didn't do as many house shows as the WWE did. And, Sting he had a pretty good little run there. It was all right. But, man, fun still to hear the Taker talk about it and talk about what if. What are your thoughts? I'll go ahead and leave it there, wrap shit up. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Did you want to see that match? Do you think the match would be good? Do you not care if the match would be good or not? Because we just want to see these guys face to face, get that picture in the ring, that iconic image, Sting and the Undertaker. Or is it just something that you never really saw anything in either? And Vince was, dare I say, right. I think that's taboo to say nowadays, but was he right? God damn it. Nobody wants to see Sting. Yeah. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next.
Let me tell you something, brother. You can check out full episodes each and every Sunday right here on this channel, dude. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to take your vitamins and say your prayers, brother.